Hey guys, I'm Legio, and this is another how-to video for City Skylines, focusing on the Move It tool. So hopefully you guys enjoy this and you get something out of it, and if you do, please remember to leave a like and or subscribe. So the reason we're doing the Move It tool today is because I've seen a big wave of new City Skylines players coming in on various platforms, Reddit, Facebook, one or two on Instagram. I forget where I see all of them. And they had some questions on the Move It tool, so I wanted to make a quick tutorial on how to help them, and hopefully you guys get something out of it. So the first thing you're going to need to do to use this mod is to actually go get the mod off the workshop. So you just go into your City Skylines workshop folders, you find Move It by typing it in the search bar. It'll look just like this when it comes up. Go ahead and subscribe to it, and also make sure you subscribe to the prop precision and the prop snapping, otherwise the mod's not going to work in game. Once you subscribe to the item from the workshop, you'll come into your main menu for City Skylines and go into your Content Manager. Once you're in your Content Manager, go to your Mods, over in your Categories tab, and then just type in Move or Move It. It'll probably be the first thing that pops up, and you want to enable it by clicking this little box right here. You'll know it's enabled whenever the box is blue. Once you have Move It enabled, and you go into your game, it's going to be down here in your bottom right corner, right next to your Bulldozer button. To access the actual Move It button tools, all you're going to do is go ahead and click on it, and you're going to see all these things pop up here in your bottom right corner. And don't worry, we're going to go step by step and explain what each one of these does and what it's there for. So the first tool I'm going to show you in Move It is going to be the Single Selection tool. It's going to be this little white circle within another big circle. You're going to go ahead and click that, and when you hover over, you'll see it says Single Selection. This is primarily used when you want to grab just one single particular item and move it from point A to point B. To showcase this, we'll go ahead and plop a building down. We'll just go ahead and use this fire station that comes with the game. So I'm going to go back to my Move It tool, make sure I have Single Selection, and I'm going to click on the fire station, and I can just move it wherever I'd like. While I have the Single Selection point enabled, I can even move this object over road, I can put it over water, it can go through trees, it can kind of go wherever I please to take it. One thing you can do while you have your item selected is you don't have to click and drag by your mouse. You can also use your arrow keys to move it, as you can see there. And we can also use page up and page down to raise the height of the building. One thing that's going to do though is it's going to keep the ground connected to the building, so it can't give you some weird cliff textures like that. So you just have to remedy that by several different means, which I can show you later on, or in another video. Next, I'll show you how to select multiple items using the Move It tool. I have two primary methods that I use when I do this. The first one I'll show you is the Single Selection method. So I want to move this fire station and this police station, so I'll select my police station first. It turns green. To select the fire station, I'll hover over it till it turns blue, hold the Shift key, and click. And you'll now see both are green, and I can move both together and simultaneously. Another method that I can use is I can use the Marque Tool, which is located to the right of your Single Selection tool. It looks like a box. If I click my Marque Tool, this box will appear. We'll discuss this box later on, so don't worry about it for right now. Just know that this will play a key later. Next, I'm going to go back into my game screen, and I'm going to drag a box over my items. You can see how they both turn blue, and as soon as I release my box, they both turn green, and they're selected in much the same method as a Single Selection tool. One nifty trick that could also help you is if you want to select multiple items but you can't draw the box properly, you can hold your Shift key and draw another box. It'll hold onto these two items, but it will also select a third item like this water tower we placed, and I can now move all three and they're maintaining their distance to each other. Now that you know the simplicity of the Marque tool, let's talk about this box that I referenced just a minute ago. We have various items that are loaded into the game as the buildings, props, decals, and so on. All of them are represented here on your screen. If the box is checked blue, that means that item is checked and ready to be grabbed by the Move It tool. So if I were to draw a box over all these items, all the items that are clicked blue will be selected. That includes the nodes, segments, trees, buildings, props, and decals. If I don't want to grab a particular item out of this set, I just click and make it gray. Now, nodes and segments typically relate to networks such as roads, fences, keys, paths, whatever is a network in this game. If I don't want to move my network and I want to move everything around it, I would go in, click your nodes, click your segments, make them gray, highlight over. As you can see, they have not been selected, and I can now grab the items and I can move the items independently of the road. While we're still on the topic of the Marque Tool toolbox, let's click this down arrow right here. This is going to go into your network filters. This is connected to your nodes and segments. In your network filters, you'll have your roads, tracks, paths, and so on. What I like to do in this is if I have a pathway and a road, but I just want to move one of them, and I don't want to move the other, I'll deselect the one. So I don't want to move the road in this instance. So I'll click and uncheck the road. I want to move this pathway here. So I'm going to highlight over it, and I can now move this pathway independently of the road. This is extremely helpful whenever you have roads built that you don't want to mess with, but you need to adjust pathways that go underneath or over the top to make the rest of your city function correctly. It can also be helpful when you have railroad running next to road or between two roads. Okay, so we've discussed all the primary functions of the Marque Tool for Move It. Next thing we're going to discuss is the Picker Tool. The Picker Tool comes in extremely handy when I have two separate different kinds of roads or two separate different kinds of buildings that are the same nature, but they're different assets, and I want one to stay in position and I want to move the other. So we're going to use these roads for our demonstration. You have to make sure to select nodes or buildings or whatever you're going to be grabbing. So our nodes is selected. I'm going to come up and I'm going to select our node. Next I'm going to go to this teardrop. I'm going to click it and I'm going to go back to my node or the building if you are moving buildings. Your node or indoor building is going to turn white and you're going to click it. You will now see this has turned into basic road. What that means is now the Marque Tool will only grab the item basic road. It will not grab this road, which would not be knocked out by our filter system down here. So I'm sure you guys can see just how wonderful the Marque Tool is, and I use it a lot whenever I'm doing my builds to move things around. I prefer it over the single selection most of the time because I can just drag over what I want and I can pick what I'm grabbing. I don't have to be fine with my movements. The next tool I will show you is going to be the Copy Tool, which is located to the right of the Marque Tool on the toolbar. To use the Copy Tool, you have to select an item. You can select it in either of the previous ways I showed you. I'm going to use my Marque Tool to select all these items, and then I'm just going to click Copy. As you can see, it has made a perfect copy of the items I selected. The networks may come out different and they may look invisible, but when you place them, they will render. This can be off-putting at first for newer users, but you will get used to it, I promise. Also, while you have things copied and moving around, you can rotate them by clicking right on your mouse button. You can rotate them completely around if you would like. You can also take them anywhere on the map just as though they were selected by your single node selector or your Marque Tool. Moving on from the Copy Tool, next to it we have the Bulldoze button, or the Delete button as I like to call it. All you have to do is select your items, and when they are green you click Delete and they'll be gone. This is extremely helpful when you want to clear out large areas. The next tool I'm going to show you, we're going to go back over to the left, and it's going to be this squiggly line that when you hover over, it's called the Follow Terrain tool. All you have to do is click it and it will remain enabled until you personally disable it. What I like to use this for, and what its primary function is typically to follow terrain. So as we can see, we have a big difference of terrain here. Well, I want to take this road up that hill. All I have to do is select my node from the road and I'll take it this way. And what the road is going to do is it's going to follow the terrain. The next tool we're going to talk about is the Toggle Snapping tool, which is going to be to the right of the Follow Terrain and to the left of the Single Selection tool. To enable this, you just click on it and it will turn City Skylines blue. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to select your node that you would like to move. This is going to snap to various things. One of the things that I like to use it for is snapping it to my other roads. As you can see, it more or less snapped in place, so I don't have to eyeball it. You can then take your other nodes and make it follow into place. Like so. You can also use this to make sure that your buildings snap correctly. As you can see, the water tower is moving in snaps instead of as it was drawn. If I turn on the grid, which is over here on the right, and I grab the buildings, you can see the buildings will continue to snap to the road. and then we'll follow the grid pattern that's laid out instead of where I'm actually placing the mouse. This is very useful to keep everything, in my terms, square to your roads. Next we will discuss the 3 items on the right of the screen. The first one we'll talk about is the toggle grid. This simply shows the grid from your zonable road. Underneath that is the underground view. This simply takes you underground so you can work on objects and or networks that are underground, such as roads, rails, and pipes. Underneath that is something called PO, or Procedural Objects. To access this, you would have to subscribe to the actual mod on the workshop. We will not be discussing procedural objects in this video, seeing as that could be a series of its own how-to videos that I do plan to release later, so please remember to subscribe so you can catch that video. But for now, just realize this is one of the shortcuts to get to procedural objects. First, I will show you how to use your Object Heights tool. All you have to do is select an object, like our police station here, and then you can go in and select the object height. You can then hover over whatever height you want that police station to go up to, like our fire station that for some reason was built on a cliff. It will now raise this up to match the height of that. Where I find this extremely useful is when I'm working with roads. I'll select a node that I want to match another node. I'll then go into my object heights and I'll select my object. And it will make that node match that node. Another tool that you can use is if I want this to say follow the terrain. It's as simple as just clicking the terrain height instead of trying to eyeball it myself. Another tool that I want to show you is extremely useful, especially when you're building interstates, interchanges, or anything with networks in general. To do this, go ahead and select a minimum of 3 nodes. Then go into your Heights tool and click Slope Objects. What this will do is it will slope all 3 objects based on how many you have. The more nodes you have, the smoother it will be, but 3 can typically get you by. The next tool we'll discuss is the rotation tools. In the rotation tools, we have 3 categories: the rotate randomly, rotate at center, and rotate in place. We'll start with the rotate randomly. First, we have to select an asset. Then we go to our rotation tools and we'll click rotate randomly, and it'll give us a random rotation on that asset. Next is the rotate at center. We will select our rotate at center. What I then need to do is, while this is highlighted, I need to click either a segment or an asset for it to rotate off of. After selecting the police station and clicking it, it made my fire department face the same way that my police station is facing. It rotated off the center of my fire station. I can also use rotate at center when I have 2 assets. When I have 2 assets selected, there will be a central node that appears between the 2 of them, this green dot right here. That's going to act as my central point. This time, when I use rotate at center, it's going to rotate off that central point instead of just 1 asset. So when I select my medical facility for my rotation point, you'll see they switch places and they change the direction they're facing. Next, we're going to click rotate in place. This is for when I don't want the assets to leave their geographic location, but I want them to face a different direction. So if I want my 2 assets to face back towards their roads, I can click rotate in place and select this segment right here, and you can see they're now facing towards this road. The last part of the movie tool that we're going to discuss is in the other tools part. Some of these I will not actually showcase, but will instead explain what they do, as it kind of takes us outside of the game, and I don't use them that often, and I don't feel others do as well. First thing we'll talk about is the convert to PO. We've already discussed this earlier, and a video about converting objects into procedural objects will be covered in a later video, but just for this purposes, just know it's right here, and you can change an object that you select into a procedural object through this tool as well. Next is the Line Up Objects tool. To line up objects, you'll go ahead and select your objects that you wish to line up. We're going to line up these benches. All I have to do is make sure they're all selected and then go into Line Up Objects. And you'll immediately line them all up on a plane, and then I can move them as I please. The next tool we're going to talk about is the Mirror Objects. For mirror objects, a building has to be snapped to a road for it to work properly. So I'm going to select our medical facility here and then go to Mirror Objects. I then have to select the segment of road I want it to be mirrored on. Think of this as a mirror right here down this dotted line. Once I click that segment, it'll place my medical facility on the other side of the road. Right below Mirror Objects, we have Reset Objects. If we click Reset Objects, it'll reset the object in its place and will default it to its original settings. I don't use this too often, as I'd rather just delete the building and try to rebuild it. Next, we have the Set Position. Again, I don't use this tool too often, but what this will do is when you open it, it'll give you an X, Y, H, and A coordinate access. You can change the values in this to any number you please, and then once you hit the word go, it'll move the object for you into a specific spot. This is really good for people who know the exact coordinate they want to do, but again, I don't mess with this too much. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the import and export selections. To export an item, all you have to do is select the various objects or assets with your Move It tool and click Export. It'll create a separate file outside of your game, which you can then later import by clicking this and place it into any save game you have. It's a really quick and convenient method if you build something you really enjoy and wish to share it among multiple saves. Alright guys, that'll conclude the video. Hopefully you found something useful out of it, learned something you didn't know, and can gain a big appreciation for just how powerful this mod is. If you did find something useful out of it, please remember to leave a like and or subscribe to the channel, and have a good day.